So North Korea has defied international warnings and launched a long-range rocket. It was fired from a base in the northwest. There's been widespread condemnation from South Korea, Japan and the U.S. They say the launch is cover for testing new missile technology. Now, North Korea's state TV made the announcement saying a rocket carrying an Earth observation satellite had been successfully launched into orbit. Pictures of Kim Jong-un, the leader, reportedly watching the launch were then released. The UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has called Pyongyang's actions deplorable. He says it's a violation of Security Council resolutions. An emergency meeting of the Security Council has been called for later on Sunday. South Korea's president says the Security Council needs to respond quickly with what she calls strong punitive measures. Seoul says it will begin talks with the U.S. on a new missile defense system. Let's go live to Al Jazeera's Harry Fawcett now, who joins us from the South Korean capital, Seoul. Harry, how significant is it that the Americans and South Koreans are now talking about the possibility of deploying an anti-missile system?
Well, certainly they're looking for ways to respond to this latest, what they call a provocation by North Korea. We're still waiting for UN Security Council sanctions resulting from the January the 6th fourth nuclear test carried out by North Korea. They're trying both to respond militarily in a defense posture terms to what North Korea is doing, and so they have this potential deployment of the THAAD system, the Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, here in South Korean territory. They haven't committed to it, but they are now publicly entering consultations about it. That is a signal both to North Korea that they are taking the situation seriously and potentially increasing their defensive capabilities, but also to China, because China is very much opposed to having this high-tech US missile system on the Korean Peninsula, very close to its own territory. And so they're looking for ways to try and pressure China to punish North Korea, punish its ally, and sign up to strong sanctions at the UN Security Council.
So, Harry, how then is this going to play out, this latest launch going to play out in terms of the longer-term tensions on the Korean Peninsula?
Well, I mean, certainly it does nothing to improve relations on the Korean Peninsula. There have been various attempts by the current administration of the President Park Geun-hye to hold a hard line against the North Korean nuclear program while trying to open up other areas of cooperation. But most of those efforts seem to have failed. There doesn't really seem to be much progress in that kind of engagement policy, that twin-track policy, because North Korea continues to prize so dearly its nuclear program and its concomitant missile program. It's even written into the constitution now, under the leadership of Kim Jong-un, that North Korea will simultaneously pursue economic progress and nuclear progress, it becoming a nuclear weapons capable state. And so all efforts to try and intervene, try and pressure North Korea from the outside have so far failed.
Thank you so much, Harry, for that. Harry Fawcett live for us in Seoul. And here now is Al Jazeera's Adrian Brown with reaction from Beijing.
China, of course, is about the only real friend, the only real ally that North Korea has. It provides a vital economic lifeline to the country. And just a few days ago, China dispatched a special envoy to North Korea to appeal to the government there not to go ahead with this test. The fact that North Korea has so openly defied China will, I think, be a cause of anger and embarrassment to the leadership here. On Sunday, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a terse statement here in Beijing saying that they regretted the fact that North Korea had decided to ignore the pervasive opposition of the international community by testing its ballistic missile technology. It urged calm and restraint, saying the only way to bring about a lasting peace on the Korean Peninsula was through dialogue. The question now is whether China will sign up to toughening sanctions against North Korea, because in the past, China says it doesn't believe that sanctions are an end to themselves.
As we mentioned earlier, the UN Security Council will hold an emergency meeting later on North Korea's rocket launch. Gabriel Elizondo sent us this update from UN headquarters in New York.
UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon calling the North Korea missile launch, quote, deeply deplorable. That was the first statements coming out of UN headquarters here in New York. Now, the UN Security Council will be holding this emergency meeting on Sunday. It'll be at 16 GMT. That's around 11 a.m. local time here in New York at UN headquarters. Now, I can tell you that Secretary General Ban Ki-moon had actually told North Korea, or warned them even before this launch, not to go forward with it. Also, diplomats here at the UN told Al Jazeera that they also warned North Korea as well not to pursue this missile launch. Clearly, those warnings fell on deaf ears. Now, what we can expect at the Security Council is really, it's the first chance that the Security Council members can all get together in one room to discuss where they go from here, what new measures or resolutions they might pursue. But I can tell you that it is slow moving here oftentimes at the UN. Already, China and the US had been discussing new Security Council resolutions based on a North Korea nuclear test last month. But those new resolutions were moving very slowly. But now the Security Council is faced with this new issue that's fallen right in their lap that they now have to deal with. On Sunday, it's going to be very interesting to see how all sides position themselves, especially China, historically North Korea's strongest ally.
Turning now to our top story and North Korea's widely condemned rocket launch. Daniel Pinkston is a professor of international relations at Troy University. He says North Korea's missile tests are increasing tensions in the region.
Most of us in the West and in the rest of the world, we think of these programs as having an opportunity cost. It puts North Korea under economic sanctions. We see the international condemnation. But from the state ideological perspective in North Korea, they believe that this enhances the power of the state, and a stronger state will enable North Korea to achieve greater economic prosperity. The state has tight control over the economy. They can squeeze resources and allocate it to sectors of their choice. And we see the choices that are made there in terms of consumer economy, food security, and elsewhere. They have shortages and a number of problems. But they've been dedicated to developing missiles, nuclear weapons for decades now. And the most important resource is your human resources. So they have a core of scientists and engineers. They're provided with the materials, the finances to work on these programs over a long period of time. As far as the technology, materials, and components, some of that they produce themselves, some of it they import, some of it they smuggle. They have a very advanced worldwide network to get components, many of these of which are dual-use items. They can be used for civilian applications as well as military applications. I think what we see going on in the region, this instability and insecurity on a number of sides, from a number of different sources, there's an overall dissatisfaction. So it's moving into more of this arms racing, security dilemma dynamics whereby everyone is responding to the actions of the other, and we all end up less secure.